Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the Thursday Night Football picks. First game of the football season is upon us. We're going to be looking at the showdown. Look, give you guys some builds that you could look to. Just kind of go through it, highlight some of the top plays. It is a little bit of a tougher kind of showdown just because both teams have just a number of options that can produce and can find their way into the end zone, but we'll do our best to try to navigate it and try to come up with the best plays at the best prices. So, before we get started, if you enjoyed the videos, if you enjoy the content, make sure you hit the like button. It just helps me out, helps the channel reach more views. Subscribe if you want to as well. If you want to join us, you can visit the website. Link is in the description. Check out Twitter to stay more up to date. That's also in the description. And let's get started. So, just looking at the Vegas totals here, the Bucks are favored by almost 9 points, 8.5 points right now. They're currently favored, as you would expect. I mean, they just coming off a Super Bowl win. Dak Prescott coming off of missing most of the year last year, and Tampa Bay is at home here, so they should be looking to come out firing on offense like they did all of last year. No surprise that Tom Brady is the most expensive guy. He's 11-2 in the flex spot. He's coming off a year where he threw 50 touchdown passes. He has so many good weapons. It's just so easy for him to have good weeks and find a path for Tom Brady to succeed. Just looking at this Tampa Bay team, he has Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown still. Brown looks to be the best value out of that trio just because he's only 56, playing some more this year. Hopefully he's out in the field a little bit more in all those three wide receiver sets. He played a bunch last year, but especially at the end in the postseason. But he came into them week 9. Didn't take long to build some chemistry. Tom Brady. They did play briefly with Brady in New England, but 56 for Antonio Brown, I just like that price tag a lot. Especially in this type of game where I expect Tampa to throw the ball a lot. And it's kind of tough to pick some of their running backs just because Leonard Fournette is going to be splitting some time with Ronald Jones. And then they also brought in Giovanni Bernard to take some third down work. It's just a little bit tough to kind of pin down which of the three running backs are going to succeed. Based on the pricing, I'd like to... I don't think I want to pay $7K for Leonard Fournette with Jones $5,000 right there. Just don't feel great about it. I'd rather go down to Antonio Brown, a guy that I know is going to be out there for most of the game. You have Gronk at only $54 as a tight end, but I'm kind of looking maybe at like O.J. Howard instead, who's only $2,200. He's not going to... might be used a little bit more for blocking, but I think Gronk, they kind of saved him a little bit more for the end of the year. He only had a couple of big games last season, and Gronk was utilized heavily in the blocking formation. O.J. Howard is still yet to have a breakout season. That could happen soon. So at that price tag, O.J. Howard looks to be a pretty good value play. Giovanni Bernard, if he's only going to be playing third downs, and it's tough unless he finds his way into the end zone, he's $2,000. Maybe he catches a couple of passes, breaks off like a medium long run, but I would instead probably look to one of the kickers and suck up at $4,000. You have Tampa's defense, 48. I think it's going to be more of an offensive game with Prescott now in there, so I'm not really looking to pay that much for their defense. So on the Tampa side, it's really Tom Brady for me. It's Antonio Brown at 56, and then picking between Godwin and Evans are both similarly priced. Godwin did have a great way to close out the preseason. It would probably be Godwin for me. I just like him a little bit more than Mike Evans. And I'm not really looking at Leonard Fournette too much, even though he's probably going to start the game. But bringing in Bernard to get some third down work, it's just not going to bode a ton could not bode well for Fournette in terms of getting a bunch of targets. On the Cowboys side, you have Dak Prescott. He's 10-4. I expect big things out of Prescott this year. The Cowboys, the NFC East, isn't looking very strong, so Cowboys have an opportunity to run away with it if Prescott gets off to a good start. This week, it's probably going to be tough for them to get the win, but I think Prescott's going to do what he can to keep it close. Prescott, before he got hurt last year, was having one of the better fantasy seasons. He had a couple of 40-point outings just because he had a couple of bunch of rushing touchdowns there. Had a 3 rushing touchdown game against the Falcons, and total of 9 touchdowns in just like 4.5 weeks. So Prescott, very good for fantasy. I kind of like him more than Tom Brady if I had to just pick one of them just to plug into my captain, just because Prescott gives you a little bit more upside with the rushing and Tampa has an opportunity to maybe run the ball if they get out to a big lead, whereas Dallas, I expect them to be trailing. So Prescott, especially with them missing Zach Martin on their offensive line, it's going to be tough for them to run the football against the best rush defense in football. So expect Prescott do a lot of passing. That might make it easier to narrow it down that you're not really looking at a lot of these Cowboys running backs. Elliott, he's 96. Unless he gets a couple of passes, I just don't think he's going to have a ton of success on the ground. He might get you like 75, 80 yards, but I think it's going to be tough for him to find his way into the end zone multiple times. So for that reason, he's kind of a fade for me. You have Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. They're only separated by $200. Lamb was on pace to have a huge season before Prescott went down. He had 4 very good games. I still would play Amari Cooper over CeeDee Lamb just because Cooper is going to get a bunch of targets, and he also was very good in the beginning with Dak Prescott. And only $200 difference between the two is not a lot, so I don't think I would go Lamb over Cooper. You have Gallup as a value play, their third wide receiver at $6,200. And then Blake Jarwin is back, so him and Dalton Schultz going to split some time. Jarwin is probably going to start and get some more work. So we know Prescott, he throws the football a ton. He spreads it around to the wide receivers, some of the tight ends, running backs. So definitely can look to both of those tight ends, probably Jarwin a little bit more. And then that's the Cowboys. There's not too much. They're really gonna focus on Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup in the wide receiver. I don't really see a fourth wide receiver getting a ton of work. You have Wilson if you wanted to just take a punt play, but he's a fourth wide receiver. And I just think that unless you're making a bunch of teams, he's not somebody that I'm kind of penciled in with. I don't mind going to Greg Zuerlein, especially if this game does turn out to be a bit of a higher scoring one. And then you have Tony Pollard as a guy that we saw him look very good whenever Zeke missed last year. But it's just tough matchup, so I'm not looking at him a lot. At 42, I'd rather go to one of the tight ends or go down to Zuerlein as the kicker. So looking at finishing out this sort of build, you have Prescott, you have Cooper. If you wanted to throw in Tom Brady, pair Tom Brady with at least one weapon, Antonio Brown, leaves you with $4,600 left. So you could look to some of the kickers here. You could plug Rob Gronkowski in and then plug in Greg Zuerlein, 36. Do a little bit more of a balanced 3-3 approach. Gronk, 54. He was fine as well. I mean, there's so much chemistry between him and Tom Brady. So, especially with the Cowboys, not very good against the pass. Gronk should have some success. If you did want to take a shot on Ronald Jones at 5,000, you can do that. And then you probably would be able to upgrade a little bit and plug in Suckup or plug in Tony Pollard. If you wanted to play a very low-owned Pollard, that would be playable. So that's one way to approach it. If you wanted to go a different route, get a little bit more pass catchers in there, instead of going Tom Brady, you can plug in a couple of his top-end weapons. Godwin, Mike Evans, maybe both of those guys can find their way into the end zone. It leaves you with $4,100, so you can still go with 2 kickers if you wanted to do that approach, or go with 1 kicker and then go with Dalton Schultz. So a bunch of ways to kind of make it work. I think Prescott is one of my favorite plays just because the game script kind of does bode well for him. So if you wanted to save some money and play him in the flex, that's one way you could do it. You could play Cooper at captain or play Chris Godwin at captain or even play Antonio Brown at captain. If you play Brown at captain, you're going to be able to get everything that you want. Go with those guys, and then even at the bottom, throw in O.J. Howard. So you get Brady paired with Mike Evans and Antonio Brown, and then you get Prescott paired with Cooper, and even have O.J. Howard there, and maybe can steal a touchdown from Gronk or get a couple of catches. So that's kind of a quick little rundown. I'm not looking at the defenses in this game. I am looking a bit at the kickers, and then I'm looking at just some of the value plays that I think can have some success, like O.J. Howard at the 2K price tag. You make a case for Bernard if you think he's going to get some extra work in those passing situations. Then Bucs defense, and not something I'm looking at this week. They are very good. They're talented, but Prescott and the Cowboys offense is very explosive, especially if they're going up against a team that doesn't have great pass catchers, that would be a different story. But even if the Bucs stuff the run, Prescott can get it done in the air and even Prescott might be forced to run a little bit if they're not having success with Zeke out there. And then I just don't really see myself paying 7K for Leonard Fournette. And now probably 3 running backs are going to get it. They're not going to split the work because Bernard's just there for third down work, but him and Jones could split some work. They could go with a hot end approach. So unless Fournette finds his way into the end zone, it might be tough for him to pay off value. So that's it for the DraftKings side, at least. Let's take a look at the Fanduel picks. Alright, Fanduel is always a different story for showdowns because you're not paying extra for a captain or an MVP. So you have Tom Brady, Dak Prescott. Probably most people go with one of the quarterbacks as the MVP. So if you want to be different, you can plug in one of the wide receivers. Personally, I like Prescott as my MVP this week. You can plug in Tom Brady would be my second. And then I look to one of the top wide receivers, whether that's Chris Godwin, Cooper, or Evans. They would be the other options. In terms of flex, you're easily able to get to Tom Brady if you wanted to him and Prescott. Leaves you with $9,500 left. So Dalton Schultz is only $65. Scotty Miller is $7,000. Miller is the 4th wide receiver on the team. Dalton Schultz should be out there. I like the price tag on him. Him and Blake Jarwin. Jarwin might be out there a little bit more if they believe he's fully healthy, which I think he is. He did play in the preseason. So you could go with something like this. There you go. Prescott, Brady, Blake Jarwin. And then it leaves you with 11,000 plus. So you're able to get to like CeeDee Lamb, who is $2,000 cheaper than Amari Cooper on FanDuel. So I think CeeDee Lamb looks better. Then it leaves you with 12,500. So you can plug in Chris Godwin, pair him with Tom Brady. If you want to go with the Cowboy stack, you can plug in Cooper. But definitely I don't think I'm seeing myself touch Leonard Fournette on FanDuel. He's 11,000. I'd rather go to CeeDee Lamb instead, who's only 10,000. And then Mike Evans is 13K, so I'd rather go to Chris Godwin. Just $500 savings. They're both similar, but if you're just forced to playing one, it would be Chris Godwin for me. And then I don't think I'll touch Elliott just because I'm making a handful. Only like one team is usually what I play on showdowns. If you make a bunch, definitely you want to sprinkle him in. But if you're just making one or a couple, I don't see him having a very good game. Just the likelihood is probably small. And then you do have some kickers options here. You have Suckup and Zerline, both viable, but I kind of like going to the tight ends instead. Like Gronk is 75. You have both Jarwin and Schultz in the 6K range. I like Schultz more. So that's about it for FanDuel as well. Both quarterbacks are definitely something I'm going to have just because there's a lot of value on this showdown slate for FanDuel, and it's pretty easy to make it work, so might as well get the best guys. So that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Best of luck on Thursday, and I'll see you all next time.